Hello, hello. Hello, my friends. Welcome. I'm so glad to see so many of you already lined up and ready to go. We're going to hang out for a few minutes before we really get going. But as you can see, I've got, you can't hear me? Just want to make sure. If you can hear me, get into the chat room. You should be able to hear me. Oh, good. Someone can hear me. I can't see who that is, though. All right. Good. I'm glad you can hear me and you're here. And you can see in the chat box that I threw out a question for you, which is, of course, I want to know who you are, where you're from, and what your coworkers are doing today, which has been one of my all-time favorite things that I'm seeing on the internet right now, which is, of course, calling your children or your spouse or your dog or your cat, your coworker, and then telling me what they're doing today. So, for instance, I just put my coworkers are painting their nails and refusing to go outside. I'm like, go outside. Mom's got to do something here. Go outside. But they're not yet. But they're gonna get there eventually. And I've got my confidence boost playlist going because I love it, and it's a total feel good playlist. Hey Andy, just so you know, the TV monitor up here is like flashing in and out. Oh, nice. They just grabbed lunch and seem to be living on Animal Crossing. Is Animal Crossing a show of some kind? I don't know. I don't know how old your coworkers are, but I love it. That's awesome. Oh, it's a Nintendo game. Oh my gosh, that's great. Yes, there's a lot of screen time happening in our house. Like more than I feel good about, but we're letting it go. I'm lowering my expectations, which is probably how we're all going to get through here. Awesome. Okay. So I've got some people on. This is awesome. Where are you calling from? Oh, hello. You are the coworker. Oh my gosh, an Apple Valley speaker. Yay. It's so good to have you here. I hear that NSDA is going to be online, the National Speech Tournament. That is big. That is a totally different way to do things. So I'm feeling for you guys. I'm sure that there's a lot of thinking about how to really do this well. So I'm so glad you're here. This is great. I think there's going to be some good info for you here. Andy, the monitor TV is not working, just so you know. Okay, so we've got my confidence boost happening. This is such a feel-good playlist that I call to again and again because it just makes me feel good. And I know I've got a friend out there, Tiffany. I don't know if you're on yet or not, but oh my gosh, this is the thing that I listen to right before I go live because it just is like full of energy. So what I might do is once this is done, I'll let you know where you can find this playlist so that you can also get jazzed before you're going live because we have to do that. Like we've got to get our energy ready. Good. Yay. So I love that we've got all these Apple Valley speech team people getting on here. I, as a formal Apple Valley speaker, I'm just like so excited that you're here. Super fun. Okay. So, I'm going to turn my confidence boost playlist down just a little bit. So it's not totally taking over, but while we wait and, what I want to do is start with a This Moved Me moment. We're not officially starting until 1 o'clock. So we have a few minutes, but if you listen to my podcast, you know that at the end of my podcast, I like to share a This Moved Me moment, something that has moved us because I really believe as leaders, we need to be grounded in the things that move us because speaking is really about the human experience, being in touch with the human experience. And so we have to be really aware of that for ourselves so that we can really communicate about it, so that we can ultimately move our audience, which is what we want to be doing, whether we are doing a speech piece or we are doing a webinar or we're getting on IG Live and we're sharing our message in that way. In this virtual world, even more so, we've got to be really connected with what is moving us. So what I'd like for you to do while I share my This Moved Me moment is for you to hop into the chat and share your own This Moved Me moment, something that has moved you recently. It could be anything, a conversation, something you've seen online, something your kids have been doing, whatever you have experienced or seen lately that moves you. Okay, so hop into the chat. Let me know something that has moved you recently. And I'm going to share with you my This Moved Me moment, which is a friend of mine named Valerie Garcia. And Valerie and I met at a conference a few years ago, and she's a speaker, and she works, I think, with real estate agents. So she has a really interesting little niche that she speaks to. And Valerie posts the most inspirational, thought-provoking, wonderful things. And so I've so enjoyed following her. And this morning she posted this. And so I'm going to share this story with you. I've driven past the farm a million times. White siding, big front porch, dog laying under the tree, and a hand-painted sign out front that says, "Fresh eggs, $3. Grams would always make a disgusted noise and mutter some comment about how $3 was highway robbery for a dozen eggs, and those people must be crazy. Yesterday, Sister and I took a long walk through cornfields and down dirt roads. The birds were out and the world smelled like spring. We passed the farm and an older lady was working in the yard cleaning out the flower beds. I noticed the egg sign was missing and I waved to her from the road. She waved back and I yelled, 'No more eggs?' She shrugged and said, 'I'm afraid to have people come into the house.' She gestured to the chickens scratching in the grass. 'I have plenty though.' I sighed. 'I wish I had my wallet. I haven't been able to get eggs for weeks. Can I come back?' She held up a hand and hollered, 'Wait there.' A few minutes later, she came back towards the road with an egg carton. She set it on the mailbox and backed away. I picked it up and waved again. 'I'll be back with money.' She shook her head and said, 'Just be sure to use them for something good,' and winked. We waved and thanked her. She waved and scratched the dog's ears. That moment of humanity was worth way more than $3. She's definitely not crazy, and I'll definitely be back." Just beautifully put, and such a moment of amidst all this craziness, we are just human beings on this road. And it's in the little interactions that we have with each other that we can move each other. So that moved me this morning, and I want to see what is moving you, my friends. Please hop into the chat. I want to hear where you are right now. If you're just joining us, we hit 1 o'clock, so it's time to start. If you're just joining us, let me know. Hop into the chat where you are coming to us from. So where are you at right now, besides like your living room or your office? Maybe you're in. Last week when I was doing this, there were people from all over the world. So I want to know where you are coming from. I know we've got a handful of students from Apple Valley. It's so fun to have you here, you guys. Oh my gosh, it's really fun. And then tell me what your coworkers are doing here today. So somebody's coworker just went kayaking. Wow, cool. I mean, like, let's get outside. We could do that for sure, right? Awesome. All right. So keep sharing those This Moved Me moments. Julie's in Michigan. It's so great to have you here, Julie. Awesome. You can use that chat this whole time. It is here for you. It's not just about me sharing with you and hopefully you gaining some insight from this training today, but also you get to be here with each other today. That's what this chat is really about, for you guys to support each other, connect with each other. You can ask questions of each other. And of course, you can also ask questions of me. So I'm going to start sharing my screen with you so that I've got some visuals that go along with this so that you can take a peek at that. And Let me pull this up for you right here. Excellent. Cool. Isn't that slick? We're right side by side. Pretty awesome. Okay, let's go through this agenda really quickly. What we're going to be covering in this short time that we have together. We've got 60 minutes. So I want to go over the big stuff. We are going to share our This Moved Me moments, which we just did. Check. Then I'm going to talk about a few things that are really the foundation for how we can show up on video. And what you're going to find is they're not that different from how we show up when we're on stage or out front or however you want to look at it. Okay, then we're going to talk about 2 mindsets and 3 tips that you need if you are going to put yourself out front, especially in front of a camera, which I know can feel a little bit different. And then I'm going to leave you with 1 challenge that I want everybody to take on in the next week. No problem, you got this. And then, of course, at the very, very end, I'm going to take on your questions. Now, I think this is such an awesome opportunity for you to personalize these ideas. Okay, what I'm offering today are some basic but really fundamental ideas that can make a huge difference in how you show up on video. And there's all kinds of ways that these can apply in all kinds of contexts. And my guess is that you're each coming to me right now with so many different contexts in your mind. So the questions are an awesome chance to personalize and customize this training for you. So be sure that you throw your questions into the box at the bottom, and I will get to them at the very end. I'm going to leave probably 15 minutes for that time. So we've got plenty of time, and it's totally my favorite part. Okay, so throw your questions in there. Okay, so we talked about what is moving us today, which is awesome. And I want to orient you a little bit to Crowdcast. So how many of you, let me know in the chat, are new to Crowdcast? This is the first time you've been on this platform, first time that you have checked out what this is all about. Awesome. Okay. Andy, just so you know, the monitor's not really working, so I can't see the chats, just so you know. So that's okay. Yes. So for many people, Crowdcast is a new platform. It's super cool. I really like it. I've been using it a lot lately. And I think that there's, well, you know, I'll be curious to see what you think, but there's a lot that I like about it. And just to orient you, if this is new for you, there's a lot of different options. You're obviously familiar with the chat. That is right there on the right. On the bottom, there's a little option for you to throw in a question. You can also vote on other people's questions. So if somebody else asks a question that you have, you can say, yes, I want to hear about that one too, and that'll bump it up the list. And then I've got a poll in there. I would like to hear where you're at with that. Okay, so check out the poll. Ask a question, hop into the chat, and then really importantly, that green button on the bottom that says download your resources here, that is something for you to download. It's I think a really jam-packed resource PDF full of other experts that I'm pointing to you to around all kinds of different things, not just how to show up confidently, but how do you take your event online, what's some great technology suggestions, you know, how to present in a meeting versus this kind of context. So there's tons of great resources in there. Definitely check that out. Okay, good. So we've got our bases covered on that. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to throw it in there. Look at all these first timers on Crowdcast. I love it. Awesome. I cannot wait to hear what you think about this platform, because there's a lot out there, and especially right now where it's like the learning curve is really steep for those of us who are finding ourselves hopping in all kinds of virtual meetings like this. So, all right, but let me start with a little introduction of me now that we've got the lay of the land a little bit. Hello, my name is Sally Z, and I know many of you are new to me, so I just want to share a little bit about me. I'm a speaker coach at Be Moved, which is my company that I founded, and I have the privilege of working with all kinds of people, entrepreneurs and change makers, CEOs and authors and young people, people who are out using their voice in the world. And my job is to coach them to do it with more authenticity, more connection, more courage, more clarity, and to really move their audience. And I am super passionate about it. I love it. I've been passionate about speaking since high school. Hint, hint, wink, wink to all my Apple Valley fellow speech geeks out there. I fell in love with it at a really young age. Actually, I have a background in theater, and theater and speech kind of melded in me, in my work now as a coach. I learned all the craft and the poise and the polish in speech, and then learned a little bit more about the nuance of connection and using your body and authenticity in my work as a theater person. And so I'm so thrilled to be able to be here with you right now, and so grateful that you are here with me, because right now, the world has changed considerably. And I'm sure that that's part of the reason why you're here. Because 3 weeks ago, I wasn't doing workshops on presenting virtually. I was doing different kinds of workshops, but now this is where we are. And I'm really excited to be able to help you step into this space with a little more confidence, and to put your mind at ease on some things that I think get in the way, that don't need to get in the way for us. But I did not always like video, truth be told. My first love will always be a live audience. There's something about it that I've always felt really at home in front of an audience. And video, oh my gosh, there was a long time where I was like, I hate video. I remember probably 10 years ago, I had done this TV interview with an organization that I used to work for, and I knew it was a big deal, and I was excited to be asked to do it, and I was nervous, and I spent a lot of time prepping. And I remember after the interview was done, I was sitting around the office with some coworkers, and they were like, let's watch it. Let's watch it. And I was like, okay, I don't really want to watch it, but okay, fine. And of course, I'm watching it going, oh my gosh, do I really look like that? And is my face really that crazy? It's like, yeah, Sally, you have a very expressive face. And do I sound like that? All these thoughts went through my head that I thought. I came on the other side of that. I was like, I do not want to do video. I am so glad that I can stand like 20 feet away from people up on the stage and find that thrilling. But my coworkers had a really different response to that. They didn't see it the same way I did, which is interesting, and I think really important to keep in mind as we step into video. It can feel like a really self-critical, and sometimes other people can be really, really critical on video. So it feels really vulnerable in a different way. And we don't have that same, especially if you're used to being up in front of people, we don't have that same injection of energy. We have to draw it from other places. And so, I spent a long time really resisting video. But over the last few years, what has happened is, as my business has changed and as I grow my audience and try and impact more people, I've had to embrace video. And now I have to tell you, I don't hate it. In fact, I kind of like it. I get kind of excited on my video days, and it's a different kind of energy and excitement that I get to bring in this situation and context. So I say that because if right now you were like resistant to this video world, I get it. I have been there, and you too can step into a space where it's no longer something that you dread. It might be something that can change your business, that can elevate your message, that can absolutely reach out and connect with an audience who right now we don't get to be with. And that can feel really hard, but I'm going to help you step into that space a little bit more. Okay, so let's start with these mindsets. And because, mindset is probably the most important factor that we can bring into our work in video, right? We might be technically doing everything right, but if we don't have the right mindset, it's not going to have an impact. And it's certainly not going to be a joyous experience for you, which does impact the experience of your audience. So we're going to start with the biggie. And this is a mindset that is true if you're up in front of a live audience or you're in front of video. It's authenticity. And if you guys know me, if you have been around Be Moved or This Moved Me for a while, you know I talk a lot about authenticity. It's because it is essential. It is the core of our ability to move our audience and to really show up feeling a sense of freedom. So I want to share with you a few pieces around authenticity. And the first is that there is no one way to do this. It can feel like there's a lot of rules in video, and there are a lot of rules, but every rule has an exception. And so your job is to find the way that works for you, right? You might be somebody who, you're throwing out the rule about you only wear solid colors when you show up. No, okay, that's an old rule. I think it's a great rule to start with, but that's a rule that a lot of people break. Maybe you aren't using any fancy technology, but that's the look that you're going for. Awesome. There's a lot of rules, but your job is to find the way that works for you. Now, some contexts, I'm thinking of my speech people right now, that's not going to work for you because the rules have been set in front of you and you have to follow those rules. But then your job is to show up and do it in a way that feels right for you so that you can be free to be who you are. Audiences ultimately want to know who you are. And authenticity, it's interesting, the way I want you to think about it is authenticity is really a feeling that an audience has. Like, oh, that felt really authentic, okay? And that feeling comes from deciding that they know who you are and that who you are and what you're sharing is in line. There's some integrity there, okay? And we do that by letting ourselves be free and full in our expression, the freedom of expression that comes when we feel free to be who we are. So that is the second one. We've got a little problem with loading my page, which is fine. This is a great, this is what happens on live video, my friends. You just never know what is going to happen. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to refresh this page. But what I can tell you is, oh, good. Here we go. Pause. There we go. All right, let's re-find our spot. Good. So when this stuff happens, when I'm doing trainings, I'm secretly happy about it because even though I was like, I would really like for this to be going smoother, but that's fine because this stuff happens in our live trainings all the time. Especially when we're dealing virtually, we are connected by technology that is being overloaded. The demand is really, really high. There's all kinds of things that don't work when things are in optimal condition. And so right now, this isn't really optimal conditions in so many different ways, but we have to roll with it and keep going. And so the most important thing when something like that happens is for you to stay in control of what is happening. Your audience will take a deep breath with you and they'll stick with you if you have a plan for it. If you don't run away from the moment and go, oh my gosh, I just wish this wasn't happening right now. It's like, it's happening. And we problem solve and you find your way through because people understand that this stuff happens. Technology flubs and flips happen all the time. And so a little meta moment for you. In fact, I just want to point out that that's a really important thing that is happening for us right now. I'm sharing with you some mindsets and I'm going to get into some 3 tips for you. But there's so much that I could be sharing. So part of the way I want to teach you today is through this meta experience, through watching me. taking note of what I'm doing that works. And you can also take note of the things that I'm doing that doesn't work for you. That's fine too. But I think there's a really powerful opportunity in my teaching. That's part of what I'm always doing, is saying we're having a meta experience here. I'm teaching you by what I'm saying, but I also want you to take in what I'm doing and take note of the things that work as well. Okay, so little side note for us as we keep going on authenticity. There's no one way to do this. Audiences want to know who you are. Okay, so you've got to find a way to share who you are and let that full expression come out. And third is that we have to be really present to what is happening. That is part of being authentic, is being tuned in to the present moment, what's really, really happening. Okay, so that can feel extra challenging via video, because in this virtual context, it's like there's the now happening, and then there's the replay that's going to happen tomorrow or for the next several weeks. Okay, but my job right now is to be in tune with what's happening right now with me, and what's happening on my platform, what's happening with you, as much as I can. And that brings us all into the same moment. That makes it real and alive, and not this like pre-scripted thing. I mean, obviously, this is, live, because already technology has gone kaput a little bit with us. Okay. So that's authentic. That's real. That's what's really happening. Okay. And people want real. Okay. So you're going to remind yourself, there's no one way to do this. You're going to find your own way. You're going to share who you are. And then, of course, we're going to be really, really present. Okay, now the other mindset I want to talk with you about is about connection. Now, connection, I think, is one of the most important things that we can focus on when we are in front of a live audience. And I'm just going to double down on that when we are here virtually. Connection is more important than ever when we are virtual, because without connection, the brain for the audience member can go in all kinds of different ways. And oh my gosh, there's a lot of distractions out there, right? There's 8 million tabs open on people's computers. Right now, you're probably off watching something else or looking at something else or thinking of, there's a lot to think about right now. Okay, connection helps us bring people in and keep their focus with us. Okay, so that's why it's extra important when you are virtual. So connection really starts with your intention to break down this fourth wall that exists between the speaker and the audience. Okay, and the fourth wall, that's a theater term. Like when you're in a living room or when you're up on stage and there's a living room up on stage, and the audience is like looking in through that fourth wall. Okay, that's where that term comes from. Well, there's a fourth wall here, and my job is to break that down as much as I can, right? And my intention to do that is how we need to start that. For some people, they think video is a totally self experience, right? Like it's just me doing this video, and we're not focused on what's happening beyond that. Right? This is about you. Ultimately, it's not about me, which is actually what I'm going to get to here. We've got to invite in the experience of the people who are here right now. Okay. And I do that by saying, hey, how's it going in the chat? Where are you at? Right? Put yes, I'm here. If you are here with me right now, if you are on board with authenticity and connection right now, I want to see you in the chat. Right? I'm inviting in your experience. Okay, so let's see it. Oh, someone says they're not here. Rick, you're so funny. Yes, you are here. Awesome. That keeps us connected and engaged and helps with some of the distraction that might be happening. But I also want to invite in your feelings, where you're at. I've got to listen to you and know where you're at before I show up here in the moment. Okay, so we intend to break down the wall. We invite in your experience. And then the third thing is that we have to kind of get over ourselves as speakers. that this is more about you than it is about me. And because video can feel like this vanity exercise in a lot of ways, it can feel like this thing that is so focused on how we look and what's happening here that we forget that ultimately, anytime we are communicating, it is about how our words can reach and impact the people who are listening. Right? That is the goal. If we can stay focused on that, we can get beyond kind of the baloney of video, like the lights and the camera and the like all that stuff that really, really gets in the way. If we can get beyond that and focus on who's listening, who this is for, that's when really powerful stuff can happen. Okay, so as I was just talking about, this is a meta experience for you. And I've already seen some folks in the chat pointing out things that are working in what I'm doing, not just what I'm saying. Okay, like Rick says, I like that you're in a vertical frame. It breaks the rules and it works. Yeah, me too. It's part of the reason why I like Crowdcast, is that we can, my visuals can be there right next to me. Okay, what I want you to do in this meta experience as you're going through this is to hop in the chat and point out what you're seeing about what I'm doing that works, okay? If there's stuff I'm doing that doesn't work, that's fine too, but you can just maybe send that to me privately, right? But I think, because the point is to teach and to underline for each other what really is working, okay? So when you see something that you're like, oh, that's interesting, I like how she's doing that, or, you know, I've never seen this before, or I've noticed this, throw that in the chat, okay? Because it's a really cool opportunity for us to support and teach each other as well. Yes? Are you with me? Let me see you in the chat if you're with me. Yes, yes, yes. Here, here, here. Yes, yes, yes. Awesome. Fabulous. Okay, so let's start in on our 3 tips, okay? And these are foundational ideas that I think can make a really big difference. There's way more than 3 tips for here, but this is how we're going to get started. Okay, the first tip that I want to talk with you about is keeping it simple. You know, this seems sort of no duh, because it's such a simple idea, keeping it simple. But especially with video, we tend to go the opposite direction. We tend to feel like in order for this to be effective, I've got to go all the way, and I've got to have all the best stuff, and I've got to overdo in order to rise to the video level. And I just think that that's baloney, and it doesn't actually help your audience, especially right now. And especially if you're stepping into this for the first time, or if this is a newer medium for you, I want you to focus on keeping it really, really simple. Simple content, simple technology, simple approach. Okay, so that sort of overlays our keeping it simple. Okay, so the most important thing as we think about simple are the 2 areas I'm thinking about are content and technology. So one idea is an alluring content need. How do we develop our content around one simple idea? And it's not that it's easy, because simple and easy are really, really different. It's we've got to cull through the noise in order to offer something that is so clear and so simple that it can zoom through the camera and really stick with people. Okay, so we're gonna focus on simplicity, especially around the idea. And when I say a simple look, it could be as simple as where are you sitting, or where are you standing, or what's behind you, what are you wearing? All of those things that we're just gonna approach it with simplicity. And then the other piece that is so important is the technology side of it. And that can also be really, really simple. It does not have to break the bank. And what you probably have right now is good enough. You can always build on what you have later. But the important thing is to just start and just get out there and do it, especially right now. I think people's expectations are a little different than they were a month ago, because they recognize that a lot of people are stepping into this. So it doesn't hurt to just start. And what you have right now is good enough. So in that download, if you click on that green button, in that download, I've got some suggestions for simple technology, simple lighting, simple camera, simple setup. And I can share with you more about what I use if that's helpful. And we can do that when we get into the Q&A section. Most importantly, if you don't have any technology, that's okay too. People need to be able to see you, and they need to be able to hear you. And then we focus on them understanding you. Okay. See, hear, and understand. So you need some really good natural lighting. And if you have a smartphone, you're good to go. Okay. Then you focus on understandable, clear content, and you're golden. Okay. So we're going to just dial down the expectations around that and keep it simple. Okay. The second tip I have for you is around imagination. Now, imagination is sort of a strange tip, but you cannot be successful on video without imagination. And here's why. Because this is a weird pretend scenario. It's kind of like when you're practicing a speech and you're practicing and you're imagining your audience there. You're imagining their reaction. You're imagining the laughter points, and they're like, this is kind of the situation that we find ourselves in right here via video. Now, I'm getting some feedback from you because I see you in the chats, but on the whole, my ability to impact you is built on what I'm imagining is happening right now. So imagination, if you have a strong imagination, you're going to be able to step into this space more. And if you don't, I'm going to give you a few little tips to help build it. The first is to imagine a warm and friendly face on the other side of this camera. Okay, so it doesn't help for me to imagine that you're not with me. You might not be with me, but it doesn't help for me to imagine that. What I need to do is to imagine a warm, friendly face that's like, yes, Sally, love that, amazing, oh my God, right? Like all the affirmation that you need to hear, I want you to imagine that on the other side of this camera. And what helps even more is to give that person a name. For instance, I know some of you who are here right now, and I'm imagining you. Julie, I see you here. I see you, Rick. I've seen a few other hands. Jeffrey, oh my gosh, like I know you. And so I am imagining you right out there, okay? And that brings warmth and energy to what I'm doing, okay? You have to imagine your audience right there. Give that person a name and put them behind the camera, metaphorically. Okay. The second thing that I want you to keep in mind with imagination and to remember is that video goes beyond this moment right here. So we are here together live in this, but then there's a replay and people can access this replay. And when they are watching that replay, it's live for them because they're experiencing it for the first time. But they're not here with me right now, but they will be when they show up to watch the replay. Okay, so we have to keep in mind that video lives beyond the present moment. That is part of its power, but it's something that we have to know and keep in mind. It changes the context a little bit, that everything that we need to reach the people who watch this in replay as much as the people who show up live. Now, special props and love to the people who show up live, because that is really the best part, and that's amazing in my point of view. And when I did my TEDx talk, when I look back on it, I think, oh man, I wasn't thinking about the video, which is funny because for a lot of people, that's why you do a TEDx talk. I was just thinking about the people in the room because that's what I really, really love. And now when I look back on that, I think, oh, I should have thought a little bit more about the video. So keep in mind that this exists beyond the present moment. And we have to use our imagination to do that. And the third is that you must know and understand that your energy is still contagious. Okay. And when I imagine my energy coming out and going out to all of you, you feel that. It affects how I present. It affects how I use my body. It affects what happens. Now, I get energy from people in the room, but there's no people in the room. And so now I have to really depend on my imagination to bring that energy in so that I can use that to give it to you. Okay, that comes from my imagination. So use your imagination to be contagious in your energy so it can flow out of you to your people. Yes? Imagination. Okay, let me see you in the text. You're imagining me imagining you. I love it. That's so great. If you are I want to know if you feel like, yes, this imagination thing makes so much sense to me. I'm totally with you. Like, yes, video and imagination, that makes sense. Or if you're like, I'm not so sure. I want to hear it. Where are you at? Oh, Rick, I didn't know that. I'm just taking a moment here. Rick says the presentation summit will be converting to virtual this year. I would love it. Yep, I could do this for your team, Rick. Oh man, virtual. I'm gonna miss the people. It's such a fun conference. Cool. I totally imagine it working. You guys are funny. You're cracking me up today. Okay, so the third rule is the rule of 3. Nice how that worked out, huh? Now, if you are content people, you've probably noticed that the rule of 3 is used everywhere. Comedians use it all the time. Content creators, writers, bloggers, video people use the rule of 3 all the time. And the rule of 3 is essentially putting your content into buckets of 3. I've done it a billion times already in this little webinar. The reason we do that is the rule of 3, chunks of 3, is super brain friendly. Brain, for whatever reason, there's sciencey people could tell you more about why, but 3 is super brain friendly. And it helps your audience remember. So when you are thinking about sharing content, I want you to think about offering it in chunks of 3. Okay, it's digestible. People after 3, they feel like it's done. So if you offer a 4th thing, it's kind of like, feels like an add-on. Okay, so if you can't quite fit it into 3, the next best option is actually 5. I know, super weird, huh? But it's true. Odd numbers are brain friendly. Okay, so if not 3, go for 5. And then really a way for us to keep our content simple and to utilize the rule of 3 is to think about all the other ways that we can communicate via video that really is not available to us when we are live. When we show up like this, there's an ecosystem of other ways that I'm communicating with you and you're communicating with me. You got an email about the webinar before this. There's visuals right next to me this whole time. There's a chat box there. You're going to get an email tomorrow with the replay. There's materials and that down. See if I can do that. Yeah, right there. Download your resources right here. There's other ways for you to communicate. And so what you actually show up on camera to say needs to be edited down. Okay. So if you're like, there's so much I want to say, be really picky about what makes it to your 3. So keep it simple. Rules of 3 will really, really help you there, and use your other methods of communication to help bolster and support what you're saying. It does not all have to be given verbally like this. Don't do that. In fact, it's not effective and it won't work. Okay, great. So we've got our 3 rules that we went through. I'm going to keep it simple. We're going to use our imagination, and we're going to use the rule of 3. And before we get to the questions, I want to leave you with a challenge. Okay, now this challenge is, I think, the most important takeaway that I want you to leave with, which is why I'm turning it into a challenge. Okay, and that challenge is to practice. okay? I want you to practice. Most people don't practice. I don't know why. I could say it a million times, but most people do not say the words out loud on their feet before they press go. Now, what's cool about video, sometimes you can restart and try it again. But when you're live like this, you've got to get on your feet and practice it and put it in your body and work out the kinks beforehand. Just looking through your slides isn't gonna prepare you and help you show up with confidence, because that's really what we're doing. We are moving through the process of learning self-trust in an area that you might not feel super comfortable in yet. And the way that we do that is by doing it. The only way is through. I say it a million times. The only way is through. So that's what we are going to do together. You are going to practice with me. And here's what I want to offer to you. If you want to send me a 1-minute video where you are practicing putting into place the things we were just talking about, okay? The rules of 3, keeping it simple, using your imagination. What does authenticity and connection feel like and look like for you in video? Send me a 1-minute video and I will send you a little video back with some thoughts and some encouragement and some love, because that's what I do. I just want to support and encourage you as you're stepping into this. That's my favorite part of being a coach, is just cheering people on as they are moving through doing difficult things that they didn't think they could do. And it turns out they can, and it's awesome. Okay? So send me a video. And if you, my email is in that resource page, or you can respond to any email that I send you with your 1-minute video, because I would love to see your faces, A, and B, it's great practice, okay? And then the next time before you stand up and do a virtual message, you are gonna practice before you do it. Yes? Okay, who is gonna send me a video? I want you to say, I'm gonna send you a video in the chat, because then you're more likely to do it. I did this 2 weeks ago. There were 100 people here 2 weeks ago, and I've gotten 4 videos. That is crazy, my friends. Come on now. It's 1 minute. You can do it. Get out in front. Press go. I am not looking for perfection. I do not want you to record it 12 or 50 times before you send it to me. 3. I'll allow you 3 goes and then send it. Okay? Because the most important thing is just that you're doing it. We're practicing, right? Expectations are low. You got this. Challenge accepted. Olivia, fantastic. I love it. Okay. So one more thing before we get to questions. There's 3 ways here that I want to help you be supported right now. There's a lot of people that I know where, oh man, the world just got like, the rug just got pulled out from under your feet in the last few weeks. And we are scrambling to find ways to serve and love our audience. Well, I want to help. So part of the way that I'm doing that is really focusing on these live webinars. I'm going to be doing more of them. So if you, so up in the upper right corner of your screen, there's a follow button. If you press follow, you'll know when you'll get a notification when I go live to do more of these webinars. I really want to respond to what you need. So send me an idea for what you need and I will do a webinar like this for you. Yes? Okay. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I want to invite all of you into Movers U with me. So Movers U is my platform, my community platform. I've got some courses that you can purchase in that platform if you want, but the community side is open for you. And it's an awesome place to bring your questions. It's a great place to get resources. It's a great place to find community of other thought leaders like you who are trying to get their voice out into the world. So that link is also in the resources. It's this way, the resources right there. And I'll also send it in the email to you tomorrow. Okay, so be on the lookout for that, but it's a free resource for now anyway. I'm keeping it free. And so get in while it's free and take advantage of this really cool space. It's a new platform, and I think it's awesome. I'm super jazzed about it. And I know some of you, oh my gosh, somebody already sent their video. I love it. I know some of you are already in there. And so hop in the chat. Jeffrey, I know you were like, this platform is so super cool. So it's not just me saying it, you know. What do you think, Jeffrey? What did you think of the platform? Teeing you up there. Cool. Okay, and then it rocks. Yes. So the other thing that I want to do for you is you each have a message that you are trying to share. Okay, it's about your business or your mission or your message, and I want to help get the word out. Okay, so as part of this Be Supported campaign, if you send me a quick bio about you and a picture, I will send it out. And then here's the really important part. We all need to send it out. Okay, so if you are on Instagram right now, you've got to find me at Be Moved Speaking, and we will reverberate each other's messages. Okay, so I've started that process. I've got a list of people I'm getting ready to share, and I cannot wait. So that feels like a really easy, simple thing we can be doing to support each other and help us spread the word about our message and our mission and our ideas. Okay, so Movers U, our Be Supported campaign, and then these webinars on Crowdcast, they are free, and I love doing them. I have a blast doing them, and so be sure that you follow along. Okay, let's get to questions. Woo, how are we doing on time? Where are we at? Perfect. Yay. All right, so we've got about 15 minutes to answer questions, and let me stop. I'm going to stop sharing here so that I can take on questions. Oh, good. We've got 3 questions here. Betsy says, oh, I saw this one before. Okay, I have a conflict. Work training. This will be recorded. And Betsy, if you multitasked, how cool. Not so cool for your other mandatory meeting, but thanks for trying to be here. There is this link. Okay, so your registration, when you sign into Crowdcast, it will show you any training that you have signed into or like saved a seat for. If you follow me on Crowdcast, then you'll have access to any training that I've done. And what's cool about it is you can just go in and watch them. All right, so this replay will be there. Feel free to share it. I know the one I did 2 weeks ago, a lot of people shared it with their coworkers. And I know a bunch of educators watched it because, of course, they're stepping into online learning and are like, how do I connect with my students in this new world? Like, this is not a comfortable zone for me. I want to be with my people. We can't be with our people. And so I think this is a really cool resource. If you found it helpful, please do share it. I'm thrilled that it has been so helpful. I've gotten lots of great feedback. I have some pastor friends who were panicking about taking their services online, and now they've got to speak to a camera, which is a totally new thing for them. So my hope is this has been helpful. Awesome. Okay, so I started answering Betsy, and now I'm done answering Betsy. Cool. Okay, let's see. Hi, Cecilia Voss. How are you? Oh my gosh, Cecilia, I love your parents. They're both amazing. And I'm so sorry that the speech season, so Cecilia is a high school student. Fabulous. Let's see. I won't be doing many live videos. When I'm recording my info speech, I'm wondering if you think it'd be better to watch myself in the reflection of the camera or cover the screen and just talk to the camera dot. Okay, I would not, it's a total personal preference, Cecilia, whatever feels most comfortable for you. For most people, seeing themselves is a bit of a distraction. So instead of them being able to really focus on who you're talking to in your info speech, to imagine all the people that you're talking to, seeing your reflection might be more distracting for yourself and get in your head. And that's not what we want to do. We want you to be really focused and really grounded and really focused on your audience and the people that you're talking to. So my thought is play with it and see. My gut instinct is to just imagine this audience behind the camera. Okay. And what I'm curious about is as they're setting up doing these speech tournaments online, I'm curious if they want you to do it as if you're talking to a room full of people, or if they want you to really do it to the camera. So that's a question for you, and I might be able to direct you a little better if I know the answer to that. So let me know. Okay. Speak to the dot, says Rick. I like that. Okay, what is the best way to send you an idea for a future talk? Oh, Dean, great question. You can put it in the comments, Dean, and I will see that for sure, or just hit reply to any of my emails, and I would be happy to take that on. Thank you for asking. That would be super cool. So, what are some of the thoughts that you're thinking of? You can throw them in the comments. Cool. Thank you, Dean. Okay, it looks like you're directly piloting the environment, closing windows, sizing the frame. How are you doing that? Is it easy? Okay, great question, Rick. Yeah, every platform is a little bit different, but I am absolutely piloting the experience that you are having. Sometimes it's helpful to have somebody else in the mix who can help you. Like yesterday, my husband was facilitating this like coffee experience, like not real coffee, obviously, like a virtual coffee conversation. And he and his team were managing people in and out of breakout rooms virtually. It was really cool. They did all that on Zoom. But they were intentionally piloting. And I guess the idea that I want to share, and I know you're familiar with this, Rick, is the idea of holding the con. That when you are up front, you are holding the con, and that's a Navy term, and it's short for holding the controls. So you've got the big wheel of the ship, and you're steering where it's going. Okay, and essentially what you're doing as a speaker when you have the con is you are piloting the ship and piloting people's focus and energy. Like I want people focused on, now it's just me doing the Q&A. I put the slides down. Okay, when I've got the slides next to me like that, okay, when it moves, focus is going to shift over there for a minute, and then I bring it back to me. Okay, when somebody asks a question, I essentially give the con over to that question for a moment and then take it back. So you can direct your audience's focus and energy by what you do. Now, it definitely takes some practice and management. So this is, I don't know, I've done a handful of these on this platform. It's a newer platform for me. And honestly, every time I'm learning a little something more about what works and what doesn't. And there are some limitations to Crowdcast. I really like it, but there's some limitations, like I cannot, if I showed a keynote presentation or a PowerPoint, I go away and I want to present it with you. I don't want this just to be an audio experience. You're just looking at the screen, because I think people zip out of those. It's like, I'm not really engaged in that. I mean, I'm a speaker and this is about speaking. So I want to speak with you. So what that has meant is I've figured out some workarounds on it, and it's not ideal. So it definitely takes practice. And that's why you've got to practice your technology, do a setup, test your mic, test your lights, do a run through, say your words out loud, and make it all work so that you don't have to worry about that in the moment. You can trust that you know how everything works, and so that you can be really present with people in the moment. So I hope that was helpful. Okay, great. Okay, are those all our questions? Okay, we're not sure if we're talking to an audience. Cecilia's answering. Okay, you're not sure yet. Okay. When you find out, Cecilia, let me know, okay? Because the good news is I think if you are just doing it like to a room full of people, then it's not that different from when you're in your practice room doing it for your coach. It's really not all that different. And we are imagining the response, and we're imagining the laughter and the sighs and the like quiet moments of engagement. Like they're there, and we have to bring them in with our imagination. Okay. Okay, so Marcia asked, how'd you get it to work on Crowdcast to show slides and stand next to them? It's super effective. Okay, cool. So in Crowdcast, and this is a kind of a technical thing, in Crowdcast, when I share my screen, there's a few different options. It could be mostly screen and just me kind of up in the corner, or you can do side by side. I just happen to like the side by side. Because then, like, you know, when you're presenting live, the speaker is the main vehicle of the message, and your slide is your backdrop. Your slide is your backup singer. Your slide is your underline. Your slide is your emphasis. Your slide is your structure and organization. It's not the star of the show. And most platforms right now, if you screen share, the slide becomes the focus. So it's Crowdcast, that's how they have it set up. You can decide how much focus you want on it if you want it. I could bring you on screen with me right now, and we could be side by side, or I could bring a third person. So I could split the screen into 3 and bring 2 other people on screen with me. That's the big difference between Crowdcast and Zoom. Zoom, you can have lots of people up on screen at the same time, which has its pros and cons. But Crowdcast is much more, they think of it as like a broadcast. It's a broadcast message. Now, I still want engagement. I still want you to feel a part of this and be in the room with me. It's not one-way communication. This is still two-way communication, like all communication, but it's just a little different focus, and it allows just for a little different experience. So depending on what you're looking for, Zoom has some really cool tools, especially around facilitating and breakout rooms that Crowdcast does not. Okay, good. Wonderful. Fabulous. Zeidel, oh, thanks, Zeidel. It's so great to see you here. Last time we were here, we have a few more minutes. I want to share with you some of the questions that we got last time, because my guess is that some of you might have the same questions. So one of the things that I thought was really important was talking about standing or sitting, and how the use of our body affects our ability to communicate. And what I would say is, if you ever have the option to stand up, that's what I want you to be doing. I'm standing up right now, partly because I'm a very physical speaker. And when I'm doing something like this is a full and on energy situation. And so I've got to use the energy like from my legs up in order to really communicate. Okay. And if you are sitting down, you're essentially become kind of a shoulder up speaker. And even if we are only seen from the shoulders up, we want to be using our full bodies to communicate. Now, of course, Zeidel, I'm thinking of you and your speech team. You are going to be full body, and I'm assuming they're going to have the camera placement a little farther away. Let me ask this. How many of you out there are here because you're taking a speech or a presentation or a talk that you normally would do up on a stage or a full body experience, and now you've got to do it on camera? Okay, let me know if that's you. Hop in the chat and say, yep, that's me. Cool. An entire 4-day conference virtually. Okay, cool. So let me ask this then. How many are here because you are trying to embrace video more and sort of a wider array of video opportunities? Maybe you're doing more on Instagram or Facebook Live, or you're or you're like doing webinars like this. Okay, yeah. Cool. So I think they're really different. It is about where you have the camera. And what I want you to think about as you're deciding how to set it all up is, what is the experience that you want to create for your audience? Okay, so someone just said virtual meetings, a lot of virtual meetings. Well, it's really easy to phone in virtual meetings and to not really put a lot of energy or thought around the experience that you are creating, but you are still creating an experience about connection and authenticity and clarity of message in those opportunities. Okay, so this is a time when you can think about, what rules can I break in this in order to do something that matters? And I just want to give you permission to do that. Okay, there's a really good comment here. I'd like to hear more thoughts about presenting via Teams or Zoom platforms where there's live interaction, a live webinar. A team that's consistently meeting with groups of clients where we're trying to direct conversation, yes, amid faulty connections, distracted people, etc. Okay, yes. So I think Zoom is a really great platform for that kind of situation where you are, I mean, that's a really powerful example of holding the con. You've got the con. You are controlling people's focus and energy. You can, in Zoom, you can put them into breakout rooms, which is a super cool function. And I watched my husband do that with his team yesterday. I think they had about 50 people there, which is super cool. And they broke them into, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 different small groups, gave them a small group question and had them engage that way. You have to see it as if you are facilitating a conversation live and then use the tools of the platform in order to make it work. So I talk about it this way, that you want to create engagement with the quality of your content and the quality of your delivery, but then you have to also ask for the engagement, to set the tools up for engagement, to use the chat box, to use the poll situation, to use the question box, and to direct people to it. We sometimes hesitate on directing people to it, but people need a little bit of a nudge, just in the same way that, like, if you start a big meeting and you're doing an icebreaker or something, if you go about that hesitantly, they're not going to go with you. But you have to lead and direct and facilitate it. Okay, so you've got the con until you give it to somebody else, and then you take that con back. Okay, so the tools are out there. There's really cool opportunities and uses out there, but then you want to manage them and lead them really strongly. And it takes practice. So my husband's group, when they did their big conversation, it was, I heard several hours of prep and practice on that. And that's how you do it well. It's not something that you can really wing. Okay, an in-person workshop and move it to be virtual workshop. Okay, the whole business. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, there is, Marsha, there's some really cool tools. I think Crowdcast is awesome. I think it's a little friendlier than Zoom. I like that the registration is so simple. Nobody has to download anything. They can come back to Crowdcast with the same login and access other resources. And Marsha, there is a Patreon option with Crowdcast, so you could set it up as like a small fee if you wanted to step into that. So that's something to look at for sure. Okay, Zeidel wants to know about lighting and sound choices. Ring light and mic. Okay, so I'm using a very simple lavalier. This is maybe 20, 25 bucks. And this one is not wireless. I have it just plugged into my computer. It's very simple. And you don't need a lot, but you need a little bit if you don't want it to sound echoey. Sometimes, like the camera I'm using right now is a webcam. It's a Logitech HD 1080p. And I think this was an upgrade from my old webcam. Andy, could you put the link in the chat for the webcam? and the lavalier if it's there. I do have a ring light. So this is in my studio. So this is an actual setup. It's a for real setup. I've got 2 box lights. I have a ring light around the webcam, and it's like I definitely put a little money into the studio setup, but it is not fancy. This is not the fanciest equipment by any means, but I did want to have some of the basic things. I also have on this this backlight, which is the latest addition that I added to the studio that gives a little dimension between me and my background, which is just a little upgrade. Not necessary. If you buy anything, I would say getting that one ring light around the camera, especially if you're just doing face, like head, I forgot what they're calling, head shot videos like this. A ring light can get you really, really far. There's also a mic on this webcam that's quite good. So I could use that if I needed to. Okay. Oh, chats. Let's see. Great sound, but poor video. Yeah, so it's all about the internet connection. It could be a little bit of mine or a little bit of yours. It's one of the downsides of doing something on the internet, and it might depend also on what's happening, what else is happening on Crowdcast. So I know that they have had a flood of new activity on Crowdcast right now. So it's a little bit dependent there. Okay. Okay, yeah, so Marcia, I think I might have answered this. Last time you mentioned you have a light that's separating you from the background. Yes. Is that light shining in your background, or is it shining on your back? It's supposed to be shining. I mean, it's a general light, so it's shining on my back. It should be on my shoulders, essentially. Okay, just to help give a little space in between. Okay, good, good. What do you think about using the language streaming versus virtual? This is a streaming webinar. Do you think it matters? That's a great question. I don't know. I don't know if it matters. Streaming feels a little technical, and like a regular audience maybe doesn't care. That's my gut instinct on that, is that streaming or not, they're experiencing it via video. So that feels a little more internal than necessary. Julie, I'm thinking for your audience. That's my thought. Live more than streaming, yes. Okay, iPad or iPhone are good cameras too. Totally. Your iPhone is going to get you most of the way there. There's a really cool light that you can attach to your phone if you wanted a little additional light. But truly, if you have light coming in from a window and you're close enough, you're sitting close enough to your phone, that's fine. I just put together a video for lead pages, and I was kind of just trying out my content, but I thought it looked and sounded great. So I was like, I'm going to use that one and send that out. I used nothing. I was standing in front of my window and I pressed go on my phone. So you can have great lighting to help bump it up, but there's no correlation between the impact of your video and how technologically advanced you get in your setup. I really don't think there is, as long as you meet the bar that people can hear you and they can see you and they're not distracted by something that's getting in the way. So for instance, if there's a lot of people struggling with the video feed on Crowdcast and it's distracting, that's a problem. And that's something I need to figure out. But it sounds like that fixed. Good. Andy, great job. Thanks for being a techie genius. Oh, you found me because of the lead pages video. Oh my gosh, Marcia, that's super cool. Really fun. I owe them another one too. I gotta get on that. Okay, any other questions? I know we are past 2 o'clock, but I'm happy to stick around and answer any questions that you guys have. Most webcams are out of stock right now. Amazing. Because Andy and I know this because Andy and I are now sharing this office/studio, and we just like keep trading the webcam back and forth all day. His meeting and then my meeting, his meeting and my meeting. Oh, good. Oh, Rick, let's see. Cecilia's got one more. Oh, no, but I answered that one. Awesome. Okay. Fabulous. My friends, thank you so much for being here with me and for showing up with me. And I will absolutely share the recording. In fact, as soon as I log out of here, Crowdcast will download it and upload it and do their magic in the back end, and then it will just be here. So the same link that you used to come find this video is the one that you can come back and use to watch it. So it will be here, and I would love for you to share it if you found this helpful. Please do. That's the magic of this virtual world, is the sharing economy. It just kind of went zing, and I'm really happy to help if it's helpful. Okay, yay! Thanks a million. You're totally welcome, Zeidel. Connect in with me. I want to hear more about what's happening with the national tournament and how I might be able to help. Thanks, my friends. And remember, come find me on Movers U. Send me that 1-minute video, and I would love to help you be supported. So let's connect over on Instagram. Thanks, my friends.